Hello, we've made it to our last week and we have two interesting topics to discuss this week. First, government and politics, and second, nonprofit organizations. So we're going to take a look at about how governments around the world use public relations. And we can see a lot of examples with our own government here in the United States. The basic purpose of a PR person for government is public service, um, to communicate important information to Americans, to the public. And it also can affect our own decision making about what we believe, how we decide to live our lives, that type of thing. So, an example of this would be the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, and how, just wash your hands campaign and all that we hear in lots of winters, get your flu shot. Just informative, helpful information that could be communicated from an agency. So they're going to inform the public about things that affect us, about the agency, what it does, and also PR person could also be getting information to provide feedback to administrators of that agency, and just kind of serving as a liaison between the agency and the general public. Also setting up interviews and working with media professionals for different reports that they are working on as well. So the federal government is the largest disseminator of information around the world. This all, of course, most of it drives from the White House. Presidents have used media attention to implement important PR strategies. Ronald Reagan was known as a very good communicator. He was a former actor. H.W. Bush used internet, well, no, not internet, but used a lot of TV techniques. Bill Clinton was very successful communicating his vision. Same with George W. Bush, all of them. Barack Obama is pretty much known as the first internet president because of his campaign's use of social media. And of course, Donald Trump likes to use Twitter a lot. So there's just different ways that the White House and the federal government communicates policy and decisions and thoughts to the public. So it also includes Congress, where we get information from our representatives or our senators, and they are using extensive information efforts to reach out to us and also to hear from us as well. But agencies do this as well. This could be like the Department of Defense, Center for Disease Control, as I mentioned earlier, Health and Human Services, or the Treasury Department about our IRS, that our taxes will be due, and the different procedures, the new rules and regulations. And so all these different departments are using PR people to communicate information to the rest of us. State governments do the same. They all employ public information officers. They will conduct campaigns. One here in Michigan lately was about banning vaping products from certain convenience stores and things like that. So just informing the public about health and safety issues, also promoting the state as a tourist destination. The Pure Michigan campaign has been very successful in its promotion of Michigan to people that live in other places to come visit us, especially in the summer, of course. And just any helping with economic development when they're trying to attract new businesses and new jobs to the state. Local governments also use PR techniques. They will inform their citizens about city services, whether it's trash day and recycling, whether here in Rochester it's the Big Bright Light Show. There's all kinds of things that they are communicating, what roads are going to be under construction, all those things that are important to us locally for where we live. Now, corporations use a lot of PR techniques to communicate to the government. So this is not actually the government doing PR, but these are the corporations that are communicating to the government. So they are monitoring what the government is doing and all the activity that might be going through Congress. They are gathering information. They are promoting their company's point of view back to the government. So there's a lot of government relations people, sometimes called lobbyists, that work for these different corporations and try to communicate information to the government. and lobbyist is what I have on the next page. It is a very important government relations specialty, and it's an effort to influence legislation, to get votes. It could be for environmental causes, or it could be for immigration reasons. So it could be the Chamber of Commerce. There's all kinds of companies and organizations that try to communicate to government officials to try to get legislation passed that they agree with. So many of us have lobbyists that might be working on our behalf or against us, whatever. But there's a lot of lobbyists out there, as we know, called K Street in DC. So that's a little bit about government. Next, we're going to move to nonprofit. Most of my experience as a PR person has been with nonprofits. There's many kinds of nonprofits. The Internal Revenue Code is the one who determines who's a nonprofit and not. And there's a list of the types of organizations that are exempt from federal income taxes. So most nonprofits, it is a something that they have to apply for and follow certain regulations. Most of them are classified as a certain type of organization by the tax code, which is 501c3. And they're not commercial. They're not trying to make money. They are serving others. So some examples of the types of charitable organizations that can do this. So they're trying to serve the broad public interest or even the interest of its members. Rochester University is a nonprofit. It's an educational nonprofit. Could be charitable, could be religious, scientific, literary, those that test public safety, those that test automobiles to see what's safe, and all kinds of, testing food, fostering national or international sports, preventing cruelty to children or to animals. So they're just all examples of those types of things that can be nonprofits. There are 1.8 million nonprofits recognized by the IRS. It's a huge, there's a lot of nonprofits, and a lot of PR people work for nonprofits. 7 million people work in the nonprofit sector. That's not just PR people, that's employees overall. And volunteers do a lot of time spending, working on behalf of nonprofits. Altogether, about 15 billion hours each year are donated to nonprofits, which would be about $3 billion at the average wage rate. This is a photo from Leader Dogs for the Blind, which is a nonprofit right here in Rochester that trains and gives dogs to the blind so they can have service animals. So these are the kind of the percentage of the types of nonprofits. You can see that human services is the top, and then education, and then health, public and societal benefit, arts and culture, religious, environment and animals, and international and foreign affairs. So those are the categories that you can see that our nonprofits are divided into. Now, PR for nonprofits, you really are using the same type of task that a PR pro in any other field would use. So you're still communicating about campaigns and programs and conducting special events and putting together brochures, trying to get radio and TV appearances on behalf of your nonprofit. You'll have a website and social media. In fact, using websites and social media is a really good technique for nonprofits because most of them don't have a lot of extra money to spend. And that can be done very effectively and cheaply. So all of these things, PR professionals can have a really strong return on investment for nonprofits because they're using techniques that are inexpensive to try to get information out and to communicate and to promote their nonprofit. The goals of nonprofits are, of course, to create a good public image, to get people to support their mission, to get more volunteers, to motivate people to donate money, to volunteer. Maybe it's, going and cleaning up a park or an area. Rochester University, we have a Warrior Day every semester where students and staff volunteer and go help another nonprofit. And one that was just this last fall was cleaning up Clinton River Trail and that whole area. So that's, just getting people to help with that type of thing, or to raise funds, of course, is a basic goal of a nonprofit person. So most of the time, nonprofits don't have a lot of extra money for some of the key activities that are needed, especially if there's an economic downturn. So a PR person usually needs to be able to handle a lot of different aspects, especially if they're working for a nonprofit. So they want to position an organization. They have to know how to develop a marketing plan, do media relations, support fundraising, be a good writer, work with people for photography, social media. So you're kind of like a master of all trades, usually when you work for a nonprofit, because you are maybe just one PR person doing everything. This photo is from Dutton Farm. It's helps adult disabled to have employment and to have jobs. And RU alumnus of our program works there and is their marketing director. It's a great program. She's doing a great job. So fundraising is a big aspect of nonprofit work. What motivates people to give, and just trying to use different methods to raise money, whether it's getting foundations to donate, if there's a big campaign that you're putting together, direct mail, online, those type of things. So there's lots of different ways that you can put together a fundraising campaign. Americans are generous. About 2/3 of Americans make a contribution each year to a charity. We have more Americans who make philanthropic gifts than vote for president of the United States. We are in the top 3 of giving around the world. And the U.S. is the only country to be ranked in the top 10 for all 3 of the charitable giving behaviors. So helping a stranger, volunteering their time, and donating money. And the U.S. is the only country ranked in the top 10 for all of those different areas. So in U.S. Giving in 2015, the average annual household gave almost $3,000. A total altogether was $373 billion. 71% of that money was given by individuals, not just foundations or corporations, but by people, just personal individuals and families that wanted to help and give to a cause that they believe in. So you can see how much has been given since 1975. This is through 2015, and how it just continues to increase the amount of giving that Americans do. So the majority of charitable dollars went first to religious organizations, then to education, human services, grants, and health. Just kind of an interesting stat for you there. And then a successful fundraising campaign, usually you have it's kind of like doing a PR plan that we talked about in the very first week of class, where you identify your objectives, your goals, you do some fact finding, you do research, you get volunteers and leaders to help you, and then you plan all your communication activities and you review and evaluate. So it's very much like the RACE that we talked about: research, action, planning, communication, and evaluation. Same thing that you do for any type of PR campaign, just you tweak it a little bit differently for a nonprofit for fundraising. Volunteering in 2015, about 64 million adults volunteered their time. And the estimated dollar value of volunteer time is $22 per hour. So it just really goes to show the importance of volunteering and donations in our country. So different types of nonprofits, I just want to run through these quickly. You have the professional associations. These would be like the Public Relations Society of America, which, it's a trade organization that all PR people, many PR people, are members of, and they can get education and resources through that association. Then there's trade associations such as the National Restaurant Association, which they are more, the memberships, corporations are members of that and not an individual. So like I'm a member of PRSA, I'm an individual. The National Restaurant Association, when I was a PR person for Big Boy Restaurants, we were a member of the National Restaurant Association. So that restaurant chain was a member of the association. So it's a little bit different between what a professional association that's for individuals, a trade association is for the companies. Then you have labor unions. They are nonprofits. They represent the interests of an entire industry, the NBA, the UAW. You have chambers of commerce. They're working to improve the commercial climate in a certain city or state. So the U.S. Chamber of Commerce does that nationally, and then we have the Rochester Regional Chamber of Commerce. I think they need a new logo, by the way. There's activist groups, Greenpeace, PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, social organizations like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the YMCA, all those that are promoting certain social issues. Could be gun control, things like that. Philanthropic, where they are giving money for a certain cause. So, like the Breast Cancer Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates are doing a lot with immunizations, and they just give all kinds of money to help around the world, not just in the US. Then there's cultural organizations like the DIA, the Detroit Symphony, libraries, and then, of course, religious organizations like churches, Salvation Army. Hope House Detroit is um, a faith-based nonprofit that we have a good relationship with at Rochester, and some of my classes have done work for them in the past. There's hospitals. Um, this is traditionally most hospitals were nonprofit. Now we do have more for-profit hospitals, so there is a difference there. For a nonprofit, of course, still fundraising, trying to generate community relations is important. Health agencies are nonprofits, American Red Cross, American Heart Association, American Cancer, all those type of things. And so they're really preventing and responding to diseases. They're, promoting research, information, education, all those types of things to help battle that disease. So they're promoting quality of life and health. And they're also doing more and more online in this field as well. And then, of course, colleges and universities, many of them are nonprofit. Most of them are nonprofit. There are some for-profit institutions out there. So we're not at Rochester University. Our goal is not to make money. Our goal is to educate students. So it's involved a lot of fundraising to help the university continue doing what it's doing, recruiting students, enhancing the prestige of the institution are all things that a PR person for a college and university would do. So that's the end. So thanks for listening. I've really enjoyed um, interacting with all of you online in this class, and I hope you've enjoyed it as well. Thanks.